your work right now is focusing on agentic RAG vision language models, right? Why is multimodal AI becoming the exciting area of innovation right now?
All these techniques like RAG or fine tuning, all these techniques we use so that we can reduce the hallucination. Going back to our analogy of the librarian example, if I ask a question to a librarian and if he or she gives me a wrong book, no matter how much I read that book, I will never get the answer. So it's like that. So retrieval is the most important thing. As an enterprise or business leader, what I would recommend and what I always say to different customers that I speak to is first you have to look into your data, how that data looks like. And second is avoid the noise and just focus on your core business problem and see that what is the best technique my business problem can be solved.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we have Suman Debnath, the principal developer advocate for machine learning at AWS and a global voice in the AI community. He's worked with everything from NVM e-fabrics to vision language models. He's taken the stage at PyCon, ODSC, reInvent, and 100 plus other global events. He's here to break down what retrieval-augmented generation really is, why multimodal agents matter, and how AWS is helping teams actually build with GenAI, not just talk about it. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode of Discover Dialogues, Suman. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
And when I was researching about your profile, Suman, I saw that you have created AWS developer communities in India, and you've been able to reach up to 50,000 developers across India, Sri Lanka, and a few other countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
really. Can you please give me an overview about how did that happen, and what keeps you motivated in creating developer communities, and how did it help you and them in the entire process?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I should be very much honest to myself. So when I say I helped to create a big community in India, I don't take the whole credit, although I would
Mm-hmm.
love to. But India, the community, it's so big that you don't need anyone to actually drive something. It's so self motivated. Everybody is so
Mm-hmm.
much self motivated. But when I joined Amazon in 2019. I was given a task to build the community in India and South Asia around Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, but mainly focused around India. And that's how I joined as a principal developer advocate for India and getting engaged with the community user groups, not only AWS user group, but outside AWS user group.
Mm-hmm.
And soon we just scaled. And it was, we joined, like when I joined, it was the perfect time because at that time, cloud computing has been established
Mm-hmm.
in the technology industry. And people are learning about how to build things. And there was a COVID time, right after that. So people spend a good amount of time on self-enablement and all that. And that's how we grew, from left and right. And I'm so glad that I'm very proud to say that across the entire globe from AWS user group in India is one of the leading across the globe. And the full credit goes to the community, not the people in AWS or any other company, because we just thumped the success of theirs because their success is our success. And I did learn a lot during this whole
Mm-hmm.
process. I got to travel a lot across different cities and learn from how other people are leveraging technology and how they have technology has evolved their life and
Mm-hmm.
impacted their personal life. So it was pretty motivating because prior to AWS I worked predominantly in engineering teams at various companies,
Mm-hmm.
and I never got an exposure outside my work to see how people how technology has impacted their life. So I was fortunate to be part of this team and see everything, in the first hand.
That's very kind of you, Suman. You've given all the credits to the rest of the team that has been and the community basically because and I do believe in community-based development because when people gather together with one purpose, let that be learning, let that be growing, let that be performing. It definitely helps because all of them are there with one purpose. And once the purpose gets achieved, I feel you will be able to achieve the larger goals. And that's the essence of community, I feel. And you've done a incredible job in creating communities in outside AWS as well. That's a really nice initiative that you've done. And before we start into the entire podcast, and the questions that we're going to be unraveling in the entire podcast, let's begin with your story, right? Because and when I did my research about it, and when I got to know that it's not a very typical straight line, that someone would take when they want to enter the AI space, right? And
Hmm.
you've worked across some of the biggest names in tech, right? Let that be from Hitachi to IBM, Broadcom, and now the AWS, right? And that's a pretty rich spectrum, I must say. So my question to you would be, and because you've also worked from platform engineering, performance engineering to storage systems and becoming a prominent voice in machine learning advocacy and at AWS, right? So what sparked this transition, and how did your earlier experience shape and help you at your current role at AWS?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question, and I always love to answer this question because this is the only thing which I feel good about it, apart from anything else. So let me start from the very beginning. So when I graduated, it's not there in my profile. I did not mention this, but when I graduated in 2007, I joined a manufacturing firm called EPCOS. It was one of the subsidiary of Siemens. So I'm an
Mm-hmm.
electronics graduate, and I got a core engineering work, and I was very happy. And then during that first year, most of my friends worked at joint TCS, Cognizant, and all these tech firms. And a few of my friends' parents, I mean, that's a typical thing that happens, right, in our society. They used to come and say that, what is your son doing, going to a factory and all that. And although I valued my company a lot and I knew what I was doing, I was loving it. But then my dad said that okay, these people are saying that there is some IT park and all this tech park.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever explored? So I couldn't say this to my dad at that time, but I was not coming from a very good college. It was a tier 3 college, and we were the first batch. And I couldn't tell him that I couldn't get a chance to get into any of the placements or any company like that. But then what happened is in 2008, I thought that let me give it a shot. And I still remember I was going through the Times of India newspaper in Wednesday. There is an accent like for job applications. They used to publicly announce the jobs. And I found there is a role for Hitachi via a consultant company called Zorient. And I just applied. And then I got a call, fortunately, because they were hiring 2007 and 2008 pass out graduates. So I
Uh-huh.
was 2007, and then we
Uh-huh.
went there, and I somehow I just got in. There were more than 800 people were shortlisted. Then we had the typical hiring process, and then at the end, 5 of us got selected, and out of 5, I was one of the lucky. But I was because during the interview, I met hundreds of people. I certainly can say that I was not the best of those 5, but I was just, got lucky. And I was the only person who was 2007 pass out. Rest of the 4 people were 2008. And that is the moment I got into tech. At that time, I did not know anything about programming. I did not know anything
Mm-hmm.
about computer beyond very basics. And that gave me an opportunity to explore a new territory. And that company, I must say that for some reason, I don't know why and what happened in the first 6 months in that company. I learned something that to survive in this industry, you need to learn every day, irrespective of what tech you work on. And that was my core in my career, that I need to work on new technology for my own personal benefit. And that's why I worked for many companies. And most of the company, when I left, it was, I mean, people might think about, I mean, they might have different opinions, but I personally left X company and joined Y company. And 90% of that push was I was stagnated in that technology domain I was working on. And then fast forward in 2014 timeframe, I was working on the storage side throughout my career, as you
Mm-hmm.
rightly mentioned. Broadcom, IBM, NetApp, all these companies, they worked on the storage side. And then one day in 2014, I was talking to one of my friends from IBM, and he was still in IBM, but I left IBM. We were thinking that what is the next technology that we should focus on? And at that time, it was cloud. And we said that, okay, so let's do something, because cloud was not coming in our day in, day out work. I still remember we used to wake up at, he moved to Singapore by that time. We started our career in IBM in Bangalore, but he moved to Singapore. And then I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He used to wake up at around, irrespective time, I do not remember. And we used to go through some online course just to learn cloud computing. We had no idea, where we will land after completing this course and all that. And what happened is, after 1 year, I got this opportunity to work for Amazon, and he also joined Amazon. Although we never planned to join any cloud company, but we wanted to work on cloud technology. And that's how all it started. And at present, he works in Google, and I'm continuing here. And after joining Amazon, I think what happened was, um, I could see that the learning happens when you talk to other people outside your comfort zone. Because throughout my career, what I've been doing was, I was part of engineering, I was building product or helping, I was in the testing and performance engineering. So my premise of discussion was only with the comfort, I mean, people who are the best in that industry or in that tech. But I never got an opportunity to go outside, and that's typically the case in majority of the engineering teams in any company. But in this role, I got the exposure to go out and see, okay, how people are working in other technology. Because I used to feel that I'm working in a very niche technology, but when I looked at others, it's as niche as the domain that I was working. So cutting it short, I think I could able to see a mirror basically, and to self-reflect. And after joining Amazon in 2020, I still remember my manager said that, hey, you are not from cloud computing background, and so I'm giving you 6 months time. You pick up one area and just focus on that. And that's when I picked up machine learning, and I thought that I want to get deeper into this. So I pursued my master's and completed that. And presently, also, I'm doing my second master's from University of Texas. My intent is, just to motivate people who feel that, okay, this is the end of the world, and I never got an opportunity. So you have to create your opportunity. It's very easy to say, then do it, but keep trying. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Even if you don't get it, you will be in somewhere. So it's like always shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will hit a star.
I truly agree in it, because there's, first of all, there's no age for learning. You're always in the constant flow of learning, unlearning, and it'll happen throughout your life. And I really appreciate your efforts in motivating other people, and the work already we have seen. You building up communities, going out and speaking. You've spoken, I guess, more than at 100+ events, right? And try to create, going there, creating community, creating awareness, motivating them. And I feel that's a very incredible job that you've been doing, other than what your work is. So can you please give us a brief overview of most relevant RAG architectures, right? And what makes each of them distinct from each other?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's start with the traditional one, which we all started with. So in traditional one, we used to consider only textual data. Let's say if the data is completely text, right? You can think of any content which is completely in the text form. Then it's very simple and straightforward. You take your text data, you have to first store it in a database. Now, the way that you store it is you have to first vectorize that data, because that is what language model understand. So you use some model which converts that data into vectors, and that data, that those vectors stored in the vector database. And then you just use your question as a query and search in that database. You get the relevant chunk, and then use a generative model to generate the answer. So that was working pretty good. But in real time or real world, your data is not only text; it contains images,
Mm-hmm.
tables, and text and all that. So how we can handle this multimodal data, and that's when there are different architectures for RAG came in. One of the way that you can make use of multimodal data when your data contains images, text, and table, you have to first use some tool to extract images from there, tables from there, and text from there. So you segregate different types of data in the first place, and then you use different embedding model to embed all this information separately and store it in the vector database. And then the next pipeline works exactly how we have seen the earlier case. But if you notice here, in the first place itself, in the pre-processing time, we segregated images, text, and table. Right. So that also, just diffuses the information from the actual content. Imagine that this is a book and it contains images, text, and tables. If I extract all of these three separately, and if I give you three different books, and then if I ask you some question, it will be difficult for you to correlate with all these different forms of data, right? And that's when there are different techniques which are available today, where you don't do all this pre-processing. And what you do is you use an embedding model which is vision-based. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the technique is called Colpali. It is one of the research paper which came up in June, July last year. And there, what it does is you give a data which can contain images, text, and tables. It doesn't do the extraction of images, text, and table. It doesn't do that. It treats every page as an image, and then it just creates an embedding of every page. So it's very much similar to how human read a book. If you ask me a question, I will go to the index, I will find out which chapter this question might be answered, and then I will just read that a chapter. Similar to that, when you give a data, it just treats every page as an image, and it creates the embedding for all those images, and then you generate the answer. So that is one of the technique which people are exploring and using. And to be very frank, RAG doesn't work in the first place for your data. And if I explained a couple of architectures, but if you just go and implement that for your data, one of them may work, the others may not work, because the nature of the data is different, right? So the way that we see customers are deploying this is they try out different techniques based on their data, because the first and most important thing is to understand how your data looks like. And based on that, you can pick the best architecture, which is theoretically should work for your data. And if it doesn't work, then you can explore other things. But there is no rule of thumb that you have to use this architecture to get the right result. Because in RAG, the most important part is the retrieval part, like how the best context that you get. The moment you get a best context, then you can generate the right answer. But getting the best context is the most important thing. So just going back to our analogy of the librarian example, if I ask a question to a librarian, and if he or she gives me a wrong book, no matter how much I read that book, I will never get the answer. So it's like that. So retrieval is the most important thing. And that's what Colpali, the model that I explained, it talks about the retrieval, which is based on a vision-based model where it just creates an embedding for each page as an image. And that's what made these kind of architectures so powerful.
So and then we also touch based on upon how data can be biased and AI also can hallucinate for the matter of fact, right? So do you think the models that you stated, that they be Colpali, RAG, or multimodal AI? Do you think that this is a step ahead to avoid the hallucinations or minimize the biasness? What AI generates responses for?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we need to understand, what is the hallucination. So at the end of the day, a language model or any foundational model, let's talk about language model where we are just talking about text. What it does at the end of the day is it just generates one token at a time. That's all,
Uh-huh.
right? So when you ask a question to any language model, you might get a sentence, but actually what it is generating is it generates one token. You can, for the sake of simplicity, you can consider one token as one word. It generates one word, and then it feeds that word along with that initial sentence, and then again generates the second word, and then it feeds that first two words to that sentence, and again generates third word. So that is what it does. Now, hallucination comes when the model doesn't have the relevant context of your question. And over the period of time, you might have seen that every model that we are getting, it's getting stronger and stronger and better because the number of parameters are more, the data it's trained on is more and all that. But we are kind of, I personally feel it's a debatable topic, but I personally feel we kind of, we, uh, we got to a ceiling basically. So I'm not saying that the models cannot go better. It will certainly can reason better. But in terms of the knowledge or the information the model is having, it's more or less it's kind of same, right? So, but yeah, the reasoning capability of the model is increasing over the period of time, especially in the
Uh-huh.
last 6 months. All these techniques like RAG or fine tuning, all these techniques we use so that we can reduce the hallucination, right? Now, these are the techniques which helps you to reduce the hallucination, but it cannot guarantee that you will get a deterministic answer. And I was just talking to one of my colleague, and we were discussing that if any customer is saying that, okay, I'm using this model, I need this answer. Okay, so if your requirement is like that, AI is not the right solution in the first place because it's machine learning. It's a probabilistic thing. So you cannot have a deterministic output. You can certainly do a lot of things. You can fine tune. You can configure a lot of things where you will get a deterministic output or kind of deterministic output. But at the end of the day, from the science side, uh, you are coming to ML or using ML with a mindset that the answer that you will get will be a probabilistic answer. Now, the entire industry and the academia is trying. What they are trying to do is they are trying to minimize that gap between the deterministic output and the probabilistic output. Because if I ask a question, what is the capital of India? I really want the answer to be New Delhi, right? So I know the exact answer. And if a model predicts New Delhi as a probability, I want that probability to go to close to 1 or 100%. So all these techniques, fine tuning, RAG, it all helps to reduce the hallucination and of course the knowledge cutoff problem that we talked about in terms of training a model.
Definitely, and you've given us a brief overview of how these model works, and so we would like to move because I guess your work right now is focusing on agentic RAG with vision language models, right? So, and you've also touched based upon how multimodal AI works and all of that. So, can you please let us know, or the audience would like to hear about is why is multimodal AI becoming, the exciting area of innovation right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think when we started off like a couple of years back, we started off with language model, and there's a huge difference in how the industry was 1 year back, 2 years back, and what we are uh, 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 using and getting today. So if you think about it, initially we just discussed about text, but over the period of time, because that was the first step, because predominantly our data contains a text. But over the period of time, we learned that, okay, this is working great for text. Can we just try with images? Can we just try with images and text? Can we just try with images, text, and tables? And that's how we got into this multimodality, because majority of the data that we get today, which are publicly available and in our company or any company, data comes in all different types of format, right? So imagine that if I ask you, uh, if you pick any newspaper, do you just see only text? You see images, text, and everything,
Hmm.
right? So if you pick a book, do you just see only text? No. So the requirement for multimodality or multimodal RAG is not an option. It's a mandatory thing to have. We started off 2 years back with text because we are just getting started, but over the period of time we knew that we have to evolve, and with the present time that evolution is happening at exponential rate, and that's why by the time we are learning something, there is something new come up. So multimodality is the real thing, and I think going forward you will see most of the models will be multimodal in nature. What I mean by that is, at present, if you look at any model, it is either multimodal at the input or multimodal at the output. For example, you can give images, text, table, any kind of format, any kind of data, and it can generate only text. But going forward, you will see, I mean, today also we have that majority of the models are like that, where the input can be multimodal and the output can be also multimodal. That means you can generate an image from a model, you can send an image and ask a question about that image. So it should be multimodal in both the sides. And over the period of time, we will see, and we are at least presently we are seeing that the accuracy and the way that the model handles all this multimodal information is pretty good. It's like we have a model, our foundation model called Nova, Amazon Nova.
Mm-hmm.
So it has multimodal capability, and
Mm-hmm.
going forward, I feel that multimodal RAG and multimodal model, these two will have predominant use case across different industries. And in terms of Colpali, which I just talked about in the multimodal RAG, Colpali is just one of the model that you can use to embed your data. But like that, I'm very sure that there will be more vision-based models that we will get, or we will see in future, which can be leveraged to build a RAG pipeline.
Definitely, and you touched based on this already that retrieving images, integrating images and documents into Gen AI workflows, retrieval can get tricky, when doing all of this, right? And you just introduced, what Colpali, the whole model, right? And that's been getting attention since quite some time, right? For business leaders, basically who are thinking of integrating multimodal AI models into their Gen AI systems. What do you suggest? How does it multimodal different from Colpali? And when they want to take decisions, right? What tips would you suggest of which model to choose for, and what are the tips, or what are the things that they can consider before integrating any of the models that you're suggesting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think I'll give you one example. So first of all, which model and which architecture works, it depends completely on your data. So what happened was just a few months back, I built one project where I used not Colpali, but I used a traditional technique to embed multimodal data using different embedding models and creating a RAG pipeline. And one of the founders of a startup in UK, he reached out and said that, "Hey, Suman, I was trying your architecture, but it is not working for my data." And I said that, "Can you just share, if it is possible, can you just share your data?" And then I realized that they shared their data, and I saw that the data was in the form of PDF files. But when I looked at the PDF, those PDFs were created using an image. So they actually took an image of pages and that they converted into a PDF. And that's why the architecture that I had shared with him, it did not work well. And then I was just reading through some papers, and that's how I came to know about Colpali. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I used Colpali, it was working better. And now, does can we guarantee that Colpali will work for everyone, for you or for other customers? Absolutely not. So, as an enterprise or business leader, what I would recommend and what I always say to different customers that I speak to is, first you have to look into your data, how the data looks like. If the data is very simple, even if it contains multimodality, I mean multimodal data, but if the data is very simple and structured, in that case, you can go ahead and use a traditional technique by retrieving text, images, and tables from there and create your own pipeline. it's a straightforward thing, and there are different techniques available to extract this information. There are few open source frameworks available. There are few proprietary techniques available, or companies are working actively on that. One of the companies, Unstructured. So you can use those models which can do all this data extraction, and then you use your traditional RAG pipeline. But if your data is very complex, in the sense, if you like, I was just going through one of the project on AI tutor for NCRT, CBSE board, curriculum. I'm coming from CBSE board, so we had NCRT books which were followed. Now, when you look at those books, you will see that the data is very complex. The information is embedded into the image itself. So
Mm-hmm.
in those cases where your data is embedded into the image and there are text on that image, in that case, you might want to explore some other techniques. And that's where these vision-based models work pretty well. So again, it's all driven by your data type. But I would recommend that first, just see whether you need RAG or not. Right? So, because a lot of times people feel that, okay, I need to use RAG because I want to make use of my data. But I just check whether you actually need this or not. If your data is very much structured, why don't you just use a database and just send a SQL query to extract the information? You might use an LLM to generate that SQL query, but it will actually reduce your cost and increase your performance, because the moment you include RAG in your pipeline, you're adding a latency, because now you are not asking the question directly to the model. You're asking the question to your data, and it is giving you some context, and then you are going to the model. So there is an additional hop that you're adding in your IO path. So first you have to try with prompt, best prompt possible. And if that doesn't work, you can try with RAG. And when you try with RAG, try to see which RAG architecture works for you. And that will be determined by your data and the
Mm-hmm.
available technology that are available. And then you do some testing on your data, not based on others, reference architecture and all. You can take an idea, but uh, always remember, the architecture which works for others may not work for you, and the architecture which works for you may not work for others. So, but you have an option, and that is what people spend most of the time today, that exploring different options. And once you get into that, get over that POC phase, you can productionize the best possible architecture.
Definitely. Thank you so much for touching base on the point. One size fits all does not work with technology. You will have to, you'll have to work your ways around in terms of you. If you really want the solution to give you business world problems, or solve your problems, I feel you need to do a lot of A/B testing to ensure you reach your stage. So I would like to you to give us an overview about practical advices that you would give systems, because you also already touched based on from proof of concept till production, right? So what are the some challenges, or some mistakes that usually teams make while bringing the from proof of concept to production?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I see that the teams are still struggling is the evaluation part. Right? So because that is a very hard problem to solve in the first place, because in a traditional machine learning model, you knew what to expect, right? And then you can compare. But now it's very much natural language oriented, so you don't know what is the exact answer. And even if you know, it's very difficult to compare two two results basically. So evaluation is a tricky part, and I would recommend that focus a little bit more on the evaluation part for your RAG pipeline as well as for LLM. There are different frameworks available now, and it's maturing every passing day. One of the platform that we have, or framework we have, is called Ragas. It's an open source project. But evaluation is one of the key area. Spend some time on evaluating. Don't just take the answer as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And second is, I feel that this area, right, this domain, is evolving so fast, and that people, most of the time, they just want to be in that evolution. It is always good to be aware of latest technology, but it is not worth to just keep on trying one after another. You will not go anywhere over the period of time. So you need to first cut through you just avoid the noise and just focus on your core business problem and see that what is the best technique my business problem can be solved. I may not need a large language model in the first place. You just have to, you don't have to go with that just for the sake others are going with that, right? And with this social media that we have today, we always feel that we are missing out from something, right? The moment we see somebody else is trying out something, a new framework is coming. Like as we are speaking, there might be some new framework which has been introduced today somewhere
Definitely.
on this planet. But it's good to learn that. Weekends are there to explore all of that, and we should all learn that so that we can have an holistic idea. But when it comes to your work, I think you need to be very selective. Don't go with the hype. Work on your data, see what actually you need. And first place, I always tell everyone, just see whether you need an LLM or not. Your problem can be solved by a simple if and else condition. Your problem might be solved by a regular, a classical ML algorithm. Trust me when I say this. I've been into the Bay Area many, many times in the last 10 years. Almost 70% of the company, if you go to those companies, they are top companies, right? You will see logistic regression is running in production. It's running today. You go to Bangalore, you go to the Outer Ring Road, you will find most of the company. There is one model which is in productionized using
Hmm.
logistic regression. So you sort of understand what is your problem. Your problem may not need a very sophisticated solution. It can be solved by a simple calculator. So why you need to buy a Mac or even a scientific calculator to solve a simple addition? So identify that, cut through the noise, and focus on your business problem. And if you are into RAG or LLM, focus more on evaluation, because that is the most important area of research at this point in time.
Definitely, that's a very important topic that you touch based on, because with the rapid scale of which technology is evolving, it is very easy for business leaders or even development teams to get caught in the hype, right? Like those shiny objects, attract a lot, because they shine so much, and everybody is like, and the fear of missing out, that you said, that if and other people are using it, I also want to use it, and it's great that you want to learn. You want to always stay one step ahead of the evolution. But when it comes to pragmatic or adoption of any technology, I feel it is very important for businesses and development teams and all the tech leaders to understand, but do I need that technology? If I integrate that technology, will it help me to solve the business problems or the bottlenecks that I'm facing? And once they evaluate that, then come down to a solution, to a research of what will work, what will not work, and definitely implement what works, rather than just trying out everything and getting your hands dirty on everything that is available in the platter. So that's, thank you so much for sharing this advice, and I feel the audience is going to take a lot from this. And now let's shift from tooling to impact, right? Because the real magic of the tools, whatever we discussed right now, will happen when they actually are into production. They come into, they become live, right? So let's zoom out a little bit, and from a strategic perspective, how do you see multiple modal AI solutions like agentic RAG transforming industries, right? And which are the industries that will have the biggest impact by integrating these models?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think majority of the industry, I cannot think of any industry which cannot leverage generative AI stack. They may or may not need RAG. That's a different thing. But I cannot think of any industry who may not need, or who may not leverage their product to go from point A to point B, leveraging GenAI stack. One of the example that I can give you is, I was working for one of the insurance company, and
Mm-hmm.
last year. and they had a manual process of working on insurance claim policies, working on insurance claim management, basically how they process that claim. And there were different teams. And it was there in their pipeline, there were a lot of manual efforts involved in that. So what they have done is they leveraged RAG as one of the things, where they put all of their data, right, starting from different policies from different states. In US, there are different policies in different states that they have. So every state has their own policies, and every state has their own driving license requirement
Mm-hmm.
and all that. There are a lot of informations, available there, but all the data are there. So what they built was they built a RAG system and they automated that entire process of claim management. So now they are doing an excellent job in automating their entire pipeline by reducing the resources in terms of engineers, as well as it's not like cutting their job. It's basically evolving over a legacy pipeline to a more mature and automated pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And they have leveraged those engineers in a different area. And that has given a fantastic result at the end of the day. So now when a policy request come in for them, when somebody like you and me go to create a new policy, uh, and previously it used to take roughly around 5 days to get it approved and all that, because there were a lot of manual effort needed in the pipeline. So now it happens within half a day. And then similarly for claim management, like that is even more important. Like when you met with an accident and you have to process the claim, it's a pain, right, to get the claim back in
Exactly.
quick time. So now they have automated the entire pipeline. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very sure if they have productionized that, but the POC was successful. That
Mm-hmm.
now the claim management has become so swift that one can get the claim within 24 hours or at 48 hours. So this is just one small example from insurance industry. So coming back to your last part of your question, that what are the other industries that can be that can see the impact? There are many. Like my wife works in clinical research, so there is a lot of application I see when I look at her work in the clinical research side. But the one of the challenges that we have in these kind of audited industry is that the data is very much private and confidential. So you cannot, and it's regulated, as you rightly said. So that's when you have to leverage RAG, because in RAG, your data is confined within your system or within your data center, basically. So you can leverage RAG and you can make use of LLM to make your application better. And in fact, there are a lot of applications which were never thought of. People never thought of those kind of applications. But now that with Gen AI, people are actually thinking of, why can't we have this? It was never possible. So it's not like there was a problem before which we never able to solve. Those
Uh-huh.
problems were never discovered because the solution is so dramatically different now that you are thinking that, okay, there is no end of imagination, basically. So over the period of time, we will see that going forward, we will find different startups, and of course there will be a lot of startups will come and go, but at the end of the day, at least in today's world as we speak, we have an ecosystem around us which enables us to think widely, to as diverse extent as possible, to at least try out things. And that's what people are doing, and no wonder we are seeing more number of startups every passing day as we speak today.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Suman. Before we wrap up, let's loosen up a little bit, with our signature rapid fire section that we do with all of our guests. This is one of the first, this is one of the fun, segments that we have in our episodes, right? And, we would like our audience to know the human side, behind the people or the minds that are developing AI, right? So this question, are you ready for the rapid fire section?
Go for it.
Perfect. Thank you. So, are you more of a coffee person or a tea person?
Tea person, absolutely tea person, and an Indian tea person.
That's really nice. The favorite place you've traveled to and why?
Favorite place, I would say Sikkim. I just like that entire northeast side, and there's a vibe there.
And favorite comfort food after a long day, or a long week?
Uh, I would say dal chawal. That's, nothing can beat that.
Yeah, definitely. Dal chawal is it's every Indian's soul food. So, are you someone who plans everything, or you someone who goes with the flow?
Yeah, I plan everything, but I never go with that. So that's how I'll put it.
For sure. So, laptop stickers, do you like them? Do you hate them?
Absolutely not. No. Either I'm very old and or I just don't like it. Yeah.
What's that secret, thing that your superpower basically that you've not mentioned on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So superpower. I think I kind of uh, cracked the code of how to navigate that learning process, like how to retain the knowledge that you are gaining, and even if it is not useful in your day in day out work, and how to navigate through and don't get overwhelmed.
Uh-huh.
So this started off with the technical work, like the area, I mean, professional world, but I think the personal side as well. So I just keep hopping things, but I know when to discard something and when to take a new thing. And as of today, it's working. I'm not very sure for future, but I think learning how to learn is one of the key thing in today's time. I learned it without knowing its importance, but I'm
Mhm.
glad that I'm able to sustain as of today again because with age you become kind of gudgeony, right? So your memory goes down. So it's a human nature. But I think I'll try to pursue that I navigate through the noise and stick to the basics and continue with that discipline throughout my career or life, basically.
What's your favorite kind of problem to solve? Is it technical, people, or processes?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think process, I'm not good at it. People, I'm fairly okay with it. At least people around me, even if they don't say it on my face, but they are okay. I feel they are okay with me, but I feel bad about them that they are still hanging out with me. But but I think process-wise, I'm not that good. My manager always tells me that. I mean, not my present manager. Throughout my career, I think process is something or anything strategic. I I do not get that interested in. I mean, in the first place. So that is something that I'm trying to work on, and I also realize that with your experience, you need to focus more on process because we at Amazon always say that good intentions do not get you the right results. Right? Even if you have a good intention, you cannot get the right result unless and until you have a good strategy, good process management, and all that. So that is something that I'm trying to learn from other leaders. But yeah, that is one of the area which I should and I am actively working on.
Definitely. So, and if you were supposed to give a TED talk tomorrow, right, but not speak about tech, what topic would you choose to speak on?
Yeah, so I think I I will try to talk about how you can shape your career, like irrespective, and for very younger kids, basically, like school or even graduate level, not beyond that, because once you graduate, you know what to do. But before that, I think I felt the need that a good mentor or good guide would have changed few things. For good or bad, I don't know, but changed few things, and I feel that mentorship is very important.
You've been really kind enough to share your 15 years of experience, insights with others, right? Your experience in speaking at 100 plus events, the one also coming up, and like creating a community of more than 50,000 developers across the globe. It is, I feel, you have a motivation, you have a goal, and you're working one step at a time to achieve that goal, right? That's really incredible, Suman, that you've been doing. It's kudos to your work, and the episode till now has been an absolute masterclass, right? Because we've been touching down on multimodal AI, the RAG, and also how AI is helping developers to scale. right? So any parting ways would you like to share with the audience before we wrap up today's session?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward for the community, not to share my thing, but learn from them. And I'm looking forward to learn at ODSC. There are a lot of good people coming there. And also, the one last thing that I would like to say is that for any young professional who is listening to this, is just focus on what you are good at or what you feel you love, and you will succeed. There is don't put a timer to your to your goals. It a lot of time it actually backfires. So just enjoy the learning experience. It's not about tech, for anything in general, and you intuitively you will feel that you have achieved it without realizing that you have surpassed your goal and you are into goal number 100 maybe. So just enjoy your work. We are lucky to be born or to exist in today's world where we are seeing all this evolution, and these all are there just to make us smart and make a better world for the next generation. So
Thank you so much for your time, Suman, today. It's been a pleasure hosting you for this episode because you've given clarity and inspiration to our audience, right? And which is what we require as well in the generation, because as you said, let's leave better places for future generations to stay, learn, evolve, and make this earth a better place to stay. Thank you so much, Suman, again. It was a pleasure to interact with you.
thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.